All right, everyone. Welcome to the first Ask Tom Database Security Office Hours of 2023. Russ and I were just talking about how we can't believe it's already the second Wednesday of 2023. 2022 went really fast for us. It was a really good year, and I'm looking forward to 2023 being as good or better. So my name is Richard Evans. I'm a database security product manager. So I cover Database Vault, and I talk about all the other security products too: TDE, Key Vault, Audit Vault, Database Firewall, data masking, as well as like your core database security features too. So I'm joined by my boss and colleague and friend, Russ Lowenthal, our vice president of product management. That was a 2022 thing, wasn't it, Russ?
That was a 2022 thing for me. Yes, it was.
Yeah. All right. Congratulations on that. Well deserved. All right, so this call is being recorded. It will be available in a week or so after on the asktom.oracle.com page. So you can get there with our bit.ly link, bit.ly/asktomdbsec. That should take you right to the to our page. I'll also post in our chat a link to our GitHub repository where I'll put all these notes and everything that we talk about today. There's a quick way to get to the pretty much everything today. I tried to put QR codes on it so you can take a picture of that QR code, which will take you to our asktom.oracle.com Database Security Office Hours homepage. This is a monthly call. If you haven't joined us before, welcome. We do this on the second Wednesday of every month at 10 a.m. US Central. We give announcements on security, we talk about technical topics, and then we'll have a Q&A session at the end where you can ask questions related to today's topic or other questions that you might have and you want to ask. Can't guarantee we're going to be able to answer them, but we can certainly discuss them, and then we can chat offline if you're more comfortable offline. So welcome today. Some brief announcements we've got here. This is that QR code to our GitHub repository where you can find like all the links and everything that I'm going to talk about today, Russ is going to talk about today. We always start with patching. You got to patch. It's about that time again. We've got the first release update for 2023 coming out on or around January 17th. So you can check out my Oracle support note 2118136.2 for that information. You can also go to oracle.com/security-alerts. Keep up to date on all of your patches, your database, your client, your application, everything is available there. And it's just kind of a recap. 2022, this was our patching cycle for Oracle database. So you can take a look at the proactive patch information document ID. That's also in our GitHub link as well to get an idea of what patches were out there, when they were released. There's a Windows bundle patch as well as the grid infrastructure patch. But I bring this up because we're going to talk about some kind of capabilities that were introduced in 19.14, which was the January 2022 release update. We're going to talk about a couple of features that came out in 19.16, which was the July 2022 release update. So these release updates are patches as well as enhancements as well. So try to keep up to date as much as you can. And then in November, we released a monthly recommended patches at Oracle. So MRPs, if you want to patch on a monthly basis, and we have a lot of customers who are trying to stay current and want that monthly patch cadence, you can check out the My Oracle support note 2898740.1. And again, I put a QR code on there that should take you to that My Oracle support note. And on the right-hand side, there's a QR code to Mike Dietrich's monthly recommended patches blog, where he talks about this new patching cycle and the benefits of it. So again, those are also available on our GitHub link as well. And I'll share that in the chat for folks who are coming in a little bit late. All right, let's do a 2022 kind of a review, and then we're going to do a look forward into 2023. So Russ, tell us about what happened in 2022.
Well, as you might gather from the fact that we're releasing monthly patches now, the pace of data breaches, the pace of attacks certainly didn't slow down in 2022. Every month, there was a long list. I just cherry picked a few of these that were sort of interesting for breaches, but every month there were multiple breaches that happened. Ransomware continued probably to be the number one thing that most people were concerned about in 2022. I don't expect that's going to change this year, by the way. Ransomware is just such a scourge in our industry right now. But don't be fooled just because ransomware gets all of the publicity and ransomware is what probably your leadership is concerned about and is talking to you about. Good old-fashioned data breaches still happen and data theft still occurs and it's still an issue. You know, it's funny, when Rich was putting this together, we were talking about the slide that he showed just before this, the one on patching, and, you know, the monthly patches. And both Rich and I, our experience from when we were working DBAs was it was difficult to keep up with quarterly patches.
Yeah.
But trust me, we didn't go to monthly patches just because we thought it was a good idea.
Right.
We went to releasing monthly patches because we have very, very large customers that say they can't wait a quarter for a vulnerability to be fixed.
Yeah.
Any of you that are working with the federal government, you may have seen that Executive Order 14028. And one of the things that's built into that is the requirement that vulnerabilities be patched in a much more frequent fashion. Which kind of brings us to the next part of 2022, just sort of at a macro level. Usually when people think about security, it's either they're worried about breaches or worried about data theft, the last slide, or they're worried because some regulation or law tells them to be. Well, 2022 was a big year, both for new regulations and for regulations that were passed in 2020 or 2021 that became effective in 2022. One that we're hearing a lot about is the European Union's NIS2. That one was released out of Parliament and has been, or it's released and it's being ratified by the different councils right now. But we already have customers that are starting to look at this. And it takes a concept that most of us are familiar with, the concept of critical infrastructure. But we're seeing this globally. That concept of critical infrastructure is being expanded to non-government industries. It could be healthcare, it could be financial services, it could be transportation is fairly common globally. But what we're seeing is more and more the security regulations that were focused on government organizations are expanding out. And, you know, it's not just the European Union. One really interesting one, Brazil amended their constitution last year. And as part of the Constitution, if you're a citizen of Brazil, you now have a right to expect that your personal data will be protected. Japan, similarly, increased action on APPI. They amended that to expand its usage. Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act in the US and Federal Trade Commission standards were expanded to include things that have nothing to do or previously had nothing to do with that area. Higher education, travel agencies, investment advisors. These are all now subject to GLBA and FTC safeguards. You know, it goes on and on. And again, just like with breaches, I cherry picked a couple of regulations here. Wherever you are in the world, there's a pretty good chance that last year saw either new regulations or an increase in enforcement of existing regulations. Really, really just incredible how quickly things are moving in the regulatory compliance world. Obviously, at the same time this happens, our technology, Oracle's technology to help you meet these requirements has to adapt, has to continue to evolve. We have to continue to give you these capabilities. So let's kind of dive into some of the things that we brought to you last year. And if you attended every single office hours last year, you may have heard of most of these, but it's pretty easy to miss one. And we all need to stay current. So Rich, why don't you take us away and tell us what's new in encryption and key management?
Absolutely. So in 2022, for transparent data encryption, we had a couple big changes or big improvements, big additions that we want to talk about. In 1914, which was that January release update that I talked about, you now have per PDB key stores that are available. So whether it's cloud or on-premise databases, and what that means is you can have different key stores or different wallets for each of your pluggable databases. Now, those PDBs always had separate master keys, but this allows you to store that TDE master key and those encryption keys in a separate PDB wallet. So if you were doing database as a service within your organization and your customer wanted to manage those, wanted to have a different password for that wallet, you can do that with per PDB key stores. You can even have an environment where you had some at key stores as wallet files and some key stores that went into Oracle Key Vault. So you could have different scenarios there within that same multi-tenant environment. And that's available all the way back to kind of the previous year's patches, release updates as well, with a one-off patch there as well. So in 1916, which was the July release update, we have the TDE initialization parameter, TDE tablespace encryption, which superseded the encrypt new tablespace. Now, this came online because we have customers that are migrating to the Oracle Cloud, but their on-premises databases weren't encrypted. Well, in the cloud, we always encrypt the contents in your data files. So this gives you the opportunity to have unencrypted on-premises. And then as you migrate to Oracle Cloud, you've got your standby databases in Oracle Cloud on base database services, what we used to call database cloud service. So those are going to be encrypted. So it's a hybrid environment here that you can set up. Now, that's to kind of help customers move to the Oracle Cloud. We always want you to encrypt at both locations, at all locations if you can. So every standby should be encrypted. Every primary should be encrypted. If it contains production database data, it's a production database and we should treat it such, and we should encrypt that data. But this does give you an opportunity there to do that. There is a good blog out there from Glenn, and Glenn Hawkins has a blog where he talks about this. So here's the QR code to that. You can go look at the maximum availability architecture blog and take a look at Glenn's post on this new 19.16 feature. So for Oracle Key Vault, December of 2021, we released that final version of Oracle Key Vault 18c. So that was 18.8. And by April of 2022, we had gone end of life for support on Oracle Key Vault 18c. And by that point, we had 4 major releases of Oracle Key Vault 21c. So hopefully that gave you ample opportunity to move to Oracle Key Vault 21c. 21c has just a ton of new features. Our 2 major releases of Oracle Key Vault in 2022 came out in March and October. So 21.4 and 21.5. And these are just kind of a sample of the additions and the new features and capabilities that we have there. So non-extractable keys. It allows Key Vault to kind of behave similar to a hardware security module in HSM, where those keys don't leave the border of the Key Vault server. We've got some improvement for managing SSH authentication and SSH user keys. So you can go to Key Vault and get those keys. So like an SSH agent, managing third-party CA certificates, the RESTful services have improved. More support for HSM as the root of trust for Oracle Key Vault as well. Just really good things here. Policy-based management, so you can have policy changes for backup destinations, audit record retentions, some more resilience around the certification, rotations, and coded alerts. So really great things with Oracle Key Vault in 2022. Audit Vault and Database Firewalls was the same thing. We had 2 major releases, March and September of 2022, and those focused on operational usability, product functionality, and squashed a lot of bugs, okay? Brought some much needed enhancements that were identified by you guys, the customers, as well as our internal Oracle customers as well. So some of the highlights here include TLS decryption support for Oracle databases, Oracle RAC, and that allows us to support Oracle Autonomous Database with Oracle Database Firewall. We've got a read-only auditor role as well, which is really good. So it's a copy of that auditor role, but we had the request that was, hey, we have auditors that want to use it, but we don't want them to go in and make any changes to our policies. Perfect. We'll create a read-only auditor role where you can give your auditor access to Audit Vault, and they can go see those reports and see what the policies are set to and perform their actions without being able to change anything. A revamped database firewall policy page, a new default firewall policy to log all logins, log out events and things. Just a lot of updates here, including expanded platform support. So newer versions of Postgres, Mongo database, as well as VMware vSphere as well to run Audit Vault on. So good things coming from AVDF in 2022 and to come in 2023. Now, also in 2022, Nazia, the product manager for Audit Vault and Database Firewall, launched her AVDF Cafe on the Ask Tom platform. So here's a QR code that'll take you to the AVDF Cafe for North and South America. There's one for Europe. There's one for Asia. She's got 3 that she manages, runs them on a quarterly basis. And it's a lot like this, except it's solely focused on Audit Vault and Database Firewall. So join Nazia. I think she's got 3, maybe 4 back episodes from 2022 that are available on the Ask Tom network as well. So if you want to go back and see what Nazia talked about as far as these new features, you can go check them out there on her platform as well. Oracle Cloud Database Security. Man, Alan Williams, the database security developers, the OCI, IAM, they've done such a fantastic job with this new, managing users in or with cloud identity. So in 2022, you can now have OCI, IAM, or Azure Active Directory OAuth 2 access tokens to log into your Oracle databases. So you can do a password with your IAM databases. So that's a separate password than your console password. Or you can do something really neat with an IAM database token where you can get that token and then just SQL+/ and log into your database. Really, really powerful stuff. And that integration with Azure Active Directory is something a lot of customers have been asking for a long time. And Alan has orchestrated and coordinated this across multiple teams at Oracle as well as Microsoft, just phenomenally. Really good stuff. We did a presentation back in August on that Azure AD authentication. So you can go back and watch that Ask Tom episode if you want to learn more about that. Lots of good things coming out on this in 2023. Not all of them are guaranteed. Some of them are still planned. So we'll see, but this is just going to get better. And there's a little asterisk there in that bottom right-hand corner where I talked about the on-premises for Azure AD tokens is also available. Remember how I mentioned that 19.16 was the July release update? So try to stay as current as you can and be on at least that 19.16 release for your database as well as your Oracle clients, okay? And so if you're looking to use this kind of capability, here's a matrix that kind of helps you understand this. I have a hard time keeping this straight, so I ask Alan a lot of times, like, hey man, just tell me right now, I'm on Oracle 19c, what can I do today? All right, so you can do IAM database passwords, IAM token, and Azure AD token. All right, good. And then you kind of move down from there with Exadata Cloud Service, Exadata Cloud at Customer. Those are in the works or coming soon. And then Oracle database as well that we've got there. And again, those clients, whether it's a JDBC thin or Python thin or the full like OCI client, try to stay current on those. We want to patch Oracle clients as well. You want to be on at least 19.16 to take advantage of these capabilities with cloud integration in the Oracle database.
Well, there is so much stuff, Rich. Before we get into DataSafe, though, Rich just went over a lot of things. If you were an Audit Vault and Database Firewall customer, if you're using Audit Vault or if you're thinking about using Audit Vault, you should subscribe to Nazia's quarterly cafe sessions. It's a really great way to keep up to date with it, and that product moves extremely quickly. And when Rich was talking about Key Vault, one of the little gems, and the trouble is every single bullet on those slides we probably could have spent an hour on. Yeah. But one that just I want to take you back to is the ability to use Key Vault to host your SSH keys So your SSH keys aren't sitting on your laptop or on some server somewhere. Instead, they're in a secure repository, which also means it's easier to rotate them. It's easier to manage them. There's just a lot of value in that. So again, go back in the archives, take a look at some of the older sessions for the office hours, and you can learn more about those use cases, but a ton of stuff. And that's also true of DataSafe. And if you are an Oracle Cloud customer using a database in Oracle's cloud, you're probably familiar with DataSafe. We also have a lot of people who have begun to use DataSafe for their on-premises databases. And this being a cloud service, it moves even more quickly. We are on 2 to 3 week sprints for DataSafe. So every couple of weeks, there is something new rolling out. This is just a partial list. We couldn't give you everything. But the big thing that happened last year was we took the time to get rid of really a huge chunk of technical debt that we had incurred when we first released DataSafe in 2019. And at the time we made those development decisions, it seemed like the right thing to do. And what we had done is we had built our own console for DataSafe because there were certain things that we wanted. And in 2019, those things weren't available in the main OCI console. Well, just like DataSafe moves quickly, the Oracle Cloud interface moves quickly as well. And that console just kept getting better and better and better, but we couldn't take advantage of those improvements. So we really took, I guess it was almost a 6-month hiatus in new features and new things. Anything other than bug fixes kind of stopped for DataSafe, and we went back and we completely redid the console and integrated it natively into the OCI console. What that meant was, as soon as we were in that OCI console, we now had full access to the OCI notification service, the OCI event service, automated registrations for certain types of targets. There was just a ton of benefit by doing that OCI native, but you saw that happen early last year. What you also saw kind of in the evolution of DataSafe is we had been giving you information like security assessment and user assessment and sensitive data discovery, but we were doing that database by database by database. So you would say, show me the report for this database, show me the report for that database for the different areas. And very early on, especially from those of you with a lot of databases, we were getting feedback, hey, this is cool and everything, but I don't have time to go click through all my databases. I need a fleet view. And so as part of the OCI native, we began to introduce fleet-wide views, and you saw that continue throughout 2022, so that now you have fairly good fleet views for security assessment, for user assessment, and for sensitive data discovery. We continue that into 2023, by the way. There's a lot of room left for improvement there, and we'll continue making those changes. We began supporting custom listener ports for cloud databases up until 2022. We did that for on-premises databases, but not for cloud. We gave you new abilities to filter and generate reports for the different frameworks, CIS benchmarks, GDPR, STIG. We gave improvements to graphs, and we'll continue to do that, by the way. One of the challenges whenever you create a console like this is you have a lot of information at your fingertips, and you want to see that information in tabular form. A lot of us are just used to looking at it in tabular form, but visualization in a graph is also important. But the graph that was the right graph or seemed to be the right graph during development a year ago, after it's hit the field and been used for a while, you start to get feedback that says, this graph isn't really that much value to me. I'd much rather see this. And this varies. Every single one of you has a different definition of what this has. Those graphs continue to evolve. We continue to take feedback from our customers. We continue to run little focus groups to try and figure out how we can improve our graphs. And you'll see them you saw them improve in 2022. You'll see them continue to improve in 2023. Let's see, sensitive data discovery. We gave more details on that. Masking policies. We've really improved the work on masking policies and data masking.
Yeah.
If you've been around Oracle for a while, you're aware that there is a data masking and subsetting pack for Enterprise Manager. We'll talk a little bit more of that later on this morning. And then there's the data masking that's built into DataSafe. Obviously, the one in DataSafe, because it's a cloud service, moves a little bit more quickly. We've made a ton of changes to make masking easier to use, to reduce the positive when you're doing sensitive data, or false positive when you're doing sensitive data discovery, and you're taking advantage of all that. Hit the next slide, Rich.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things that we did right around the end of last year, and this would have been very easy to miss, is we took a look at reporting for both audit and alerts. This is one of the more popular features in DataSafe. And prior to, I think it was around the end of November, you didn't have the ability to say, hey, I want to create an alert, create a policy, and I want to create an audit report. This is the content I want in my audit report. I want to look at these targets, these types of events. Everyone has different things they want to look for, but I don't want to have to go into DataSafe and run that report manually. I want it to just run on whatever my schedule is and send me an email and let me know that this report is ready for viewing so that I can go out and click it and look at the report. So the team worked on that, and we got that released last year. This is huge new functionality, but it's just one little small page. You've got to go into reporting, and sure enough, you now have a button that says, hey, do you want to schedule your report? But it's a great new feature of DataSafe. Let's see, what else do we have for DataSafe? Got a ton more stuff coming, but what's the next slide, Rich?
Yeah, the next slide goes on to the security blog.
Then I'm going to turn it back over to you for security blogs. But well, anyway, we'll talk more about what's coming at the very end here.
Yeah, Russ, on this last slide, I feel bad that OCI native and Fleet Views are the same size as everything else. It's like they should be half the screen because those were such important efforts that we took on, and it was really, really important to give us the ability to do those OCI integrations, events and notifications like you were just talking about, or integrating with CloudGuard, a lot of capability there. So really, really good stuff, man. And these, I could see I would want one of these reports in my email at 6 a.m. or something. And so that way, when I come in the office, I could get that and then, sip my coffee and look through and kind of get an idea of, okay, what happened, or Friday, I could look at it and say, all right, well, what happened this week? So yeah, these reports.
And what I prefer, Rich, is I don't want to look at that report. That report is something somebody else has to look at. Yeah. Before I had to go in and pull that report and generate it and download it and send it to them.
Yeah, you could send
now
it to
they can go do it themselves. I'm a big fan of other people doing work, so I don't have to.
I like it. All right. As far as our security blog, if you take a look at blogs.oracle.com/cloud security, or you blast that QR code there we've got a lot of security related blog posts that we released. And I put a sampling here on the screen, but I put pretty much all of them or a lot of them on a month-by-month basis on this GitHub repository that I keep sharing in the chat. Really good stuff. And it was really fun to look back at it and to see that we had one or two good blog posts that went out every month. And so, fairly recently, highlights of Key Vault 21.5, simplified secrets management and administration. Peter Wall talked about some of that capability, as well as like the SSH agent capability that Russ was talking about in 21.4 and 21.5. The EBS team published a couple blogs on moving toward unified auditing and how unified auditing is certified with EBS now. And that's going to be important because we're going to talk about that as we go into 2023. But lots of good blogs out here, as well as like Alan's Azure Active Directory, using SQL CL and Cloud Shell to do like token-based authentication to the database. So if you haven't checked out the blogs.oracle.com/cloud security, check it out. Go back through our catalog from 2022, and we've got some good entries in there.
We don't do like some people. We don't write blogs every day just so we publish something. If there's a blog out there, it's something that we think is important.
Yeah. We're doing it. It means something to us. Yep. LiveLabs. Russ, we have like 700 LiveLabs at this point, not just us, but across all of Oracle database and Oracle applications and Oracle products.
I even went out and did a count, Rich, when I put this slide together. So 695 was the count as of yesterday, and we're constantly adding more.
Yeah.
Last year was kind of the year for LiveLabs too. On our team, we're a fairly small product management team, but we actually have one person who's full-time. That's almost all that he does. And then we all pitch in. Rich does a lot of work developing LiveLabs, and Rich has several people that he works with outside of our team that works with LiveLabs.
Yeah.
But if you haven't done anything with LiveLabs and you are a practicing DBA, can you go back one, Rich? Can you go back one? Yeah. If you haven't done anything with LiveLabs and you are a practicing DBA, either grab the URL that you see in the title or take a snapshot of Rich's QR code there. But this is how you get trained now. Remember the days when we would all go to the Oracle education classes or later on Oracle University classes, and we'd sit in class for a week and, you know, somebody would stand up there and talk and talk and talk. There's still places for that. But for almost everything now, you can spend a couple of hours, get targeted training on just what you want. And the LiveLabs walk you through the use cases for the different features. And it's not just security, it's really everything. And it's not even just database, but it's almost everything Oracle has a LiveLab now. Really, really strongly encourage you to do that. Now we go to the next slide.
Yeah.
One of the labs that we introduced last year was kind of a different one. Yep, there it is. Before this Tales from the Dark Side, hacking the database, the labs on LiveLabs were primarily, let me show you how to do something. Let me walk you through a use case so you can see how you would do this in one environment and get familiar with the feature. This particular lab, the team put together as not a way to show you how to do something, but as a way to show you why you do certain things. And again, if you've joined us for office hours throughout the years, we're always talking about you should do this and you should do that and you should do this other thing. Well, what hacking the database does is it has two databases. They're pluggables, but that's fine. One of them is set up securely. One of them is set up insecurely. And you just walk through. This is what an attack looks like using this vulnerability. Here's how that attack works on a database that's not secure. Here's how that attack works on a database that is secure. And you just get a feel for kind of the things that you're doing and why. It doesn't take long to go through. If you attended CloudWorld, or if anyone from your organization attended CloudWorld back in, I guess it was October, in Las Vegas, this was one of our most popular labs at CloudWorld. We had nothing but standing room in the lab. Even people, because they couldn't get in to do the lab, they were standing there just listening to the presentation, because it's such a different way to look at security than anything we've done before. Highly encourage you to take a look at this particular lab if you haven't done so already. But it's not just here. The next one, Rich. So Rich and his team have done a ton of work, especially if you're on autonomous database, not just how to use Database Vault, because we've already got labs on Database Vault, but how do you use Database Vault on this specific platform? Because there's nuances there. And so we continue to expand these labs out. We continue to add capability to them. This is another one. It is just an absolutely wonderful lab, really great to work with. And we continue to improve these.
Yeah.
So LiveLabs, if you attended CloudWorld, you saw this. If you've attended a user group event, you've probably seen this. Next slide. Two nexts, actually. But last year was, for us, the return to in-person events. Rich, did you see the comment from Jim?
I did.
No, Jim. Rich only owns blue shirts. That's actually an in joke on our team. He never wears anything but a blue shirt. I've thought about sending him a pity shirt.
Jim, at this point, I do it because it bothers Alan so much that I do it intentionally. I may have a different shirt on, but I'm going to put on the blue shirt just for Alan.
But at least you comb your hair now, Rich, so we all appreciate that. Of course, you have hair to comb. Anyway, so last year saw a return to in-person events for us. And for many of us, myself included, CloudWorld was the first time I had gotten on a plane and gone somewhere to actually see people in 2 years. We are slowly starting to open that back up. We'll see more events in 2023. You'll see more events like CloudWorld. We're starting to go back out to user groups again. Rich, you're presenting in Austin in May, aren't you?
Dallas. Yeah.
Or Dallas, not
Dallas
Austin,
in
sorry.
May. Yeah, you're right. I should have mentioned that on here. Darn it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you still got a few months. But so we're starting to do this again. I don't know that it's a return to normal. I think this is the new normal, but I think it's perhaps less a recognition that this is the new reality, that we're all going to live with a certain level of risk now, and just accept that risk. So that's a big one. There's another set of events, 23C App Simple. That's our next release. We'll be talking about that here in just a few minutes, but you'll see a series of events for that. And one of those is the 23C beta. Beta 1 is ongoing right now. If you are interested in participating in the beta, you can still sign up for it. The QR code is here on the screen for you. There will be a beta 2 later this year, probably right around the end of spring, beginning of summer. So if you don't want to see what is really, alpha beta code, and you want to get closer to release candidate code, wait for the summer one. But if you want to get hands-on with 23C, you can already start to do that. And there's some great new features in 23C. Yeah. All right. Rich, I'll turn it back over to you. Or no, do I have this one?
No, I got this one here. I've got a couple slides and then it's back to you. So 2022, late 2022 was the year of ChatGPT. If you haven't heard of ChatGPT, you have to go check it out. It's from OpenAI and it's amazing. It's so neat to play with. It could do your homework. I asked it to write 300 words on Oracle Database Vault. And within seconds, it gave me 5 paragraphs that were pretty good. I mean, not great, but pretty good, right? A good start, at least. My wife said, oh, well, it can't do my job. And I said, okay, well, write a business proposal plan to do A, B, and C, like that. And she looked at it and went, oh my goodness, that took me like a week to do. Now, again, it's not perfect, but it's really good at some of the basic things. One of the fun things to do also is ask it to write you a little essay on something, and then ask it to turn it into a limerick or turn it into a haiku, or ask it to do it as Jerry Seinfeld or Shakespeare, right? Like it will do it in those like different styles of writing. So cool stuff. So I asked it, hey, what database threats should we expect in 2023? ChatGPT came back, and this is a screenshot from it. It's difficult to say, but in the past, we're going to see these same attacks in the future. SQL injection attack, denial of service attack, unauthorized access, and data leakage. We talk about that every month, right? Like we talk about these things all the time. SQL injection attacks, database firewall, or parsing and making sure that you're controlling your inputs. Denial of service attacks, like who has access to the database? We drop connections. We lock accounts, but maybe then we unlock them after a few minutes. Unauthorized access, database fault, label security, VPD, RAS, like all of this, encryption as well. So we talk about these things, and even ChatGPT knows that what was in 2022 with all those data breaches is going to continue in 2023. And these are kind of the fundamentals that we need to take care of. So really cool stuff. I'd originally asked it about major data breaches in 2022, and it said, sorry, my information only goes to 2021. I said, okay, well then tell me about 2021 data breaches. And again, 10 of them, 8 or 10 of them in bullet format, going through them, and why they were important. Really, really cool capability here. So looking ahead, Russ, what do we got here?
So we did a bunch in 2022. We're going to do even more in 2023. One of the big things in 2023, it will be the next long-term database release. That'll be later this year. You don't need to worry about it today unless you just want to play around with the beta, but it is coming. And it's amazing how fast the development milestones are going on this. As part of that, it is our intention to de-support or get as close to de-support as we can the legacy auditing facility, the one that's been around since Oracle 6, all right? And we will move to a default of unified auditing, the one we introduced in 12C. Believe it or not, that is now a decade old. Stop and just internalize that. Unified auditing is now 10 years old.
Yeah.
No wonder I have no hair. Anyway, so this is the year you should be, if you haven't already, you should be taking a few minutes, take a look at the documentation. Angelin Donarani, our product manager for auditing, wrote a great technical report on best practices for unified auditing. You'll see that on our oracle.com webpage. Rich, was it yesterday, Rich? I think it was yesterday. Rich said, hey, you know what? We need a live lab on migrating from traditional auditing to unified auditing. Which he should have never said around me, because now I've, when's it going to be done, Rich?
Yeah, no, I know. And I thought about it like this would be great. Like, this is so great for LiveLabs. Like Russ said, we used to go to Oracle Education or Oracle University. Now, from your laptop in 30 minutes on our environment for a lot of those labs, you can learn how to do these things. And it's really great. I go to LiveLabs when I was looking at like blockchain tables, immutable tables. I went through our live lab to understand some of that stuff. So we'll do it. We're going to come up with a lab on this and stuff. Yeah.
But one of the things that is brand new, just happened, is Angelin and the development team for audit released a traditional audit to unified audit syntax converter. Basically, when you run this against your database, it looks at all of your existing audit policies. Now, these are traditional audit policies, not fine-grained audit, not database vault audit, but just regular, like audit select on X or audit everything that Rich does or something like that. And it will spit out what would that look like if you rewrote that as a unified audit policy. This is a dumb converter. And that's not in any way meant to denigrate the people who wrote it, because it was actually brilliantly done, and we put a lot of work into this. But what I mean by a dumb converter is it takes your incoming policies from traditional audit and spits out the exact same policy in unified audit. Right. It doesn't take advantage of all these cool things you can do in unified auditing that you couldn't do in traditional audit. Right. We don't assume you want to do those things. We give you the equivalent policy, which means you're still probably generating 4 or 5 times as much audit data as you really need, but it at least gives you a start. Rich has the document ID here and a link to it. If you haven't looked at unified auditing yet, you really should do this. If you still have 12.2 or above databases that are still doing traditional auditing, you should move those to unified audit now. Notice I very carefully said 12.2. Unified audit was brand new in 12.1. It works, but we're not going to push you to unified audit in 12.1. But by 12.2, it was rock solid. Okay, next slide. 23C, we announced this at CloudWorld last October. There is so much coming in 23C. Schema level privileges. We have been asking for this since I was a working DBA back in the Oracle 6 and 7 timeframe. The ability to just say, hey, I want to grant Rich everything on the HR schema. And when a new table gets added to the HR schema, Rich just inherits that. We finally have that in 23C. Password lengths. For a long time, the database has been limited to 30-byte passwords. Now, if you're in Western European character sets or ASCII character sets, that's a 30-character password set. But if you're in a multi-byte character set, that could be as little as an 8-character password, which is not secure by today's standard. In 23C, we're moving that to 24 bytes. Should be good enough. Hopefully, we're all getting off passwords anyway. Remember, Rich was just talking about the ability to use OAuth 2 tokens. We've talked a little bit over the years about Audit Vault and Database Firewall. Database Firewall is super cool technology, but it sits outside the database. That is both a blessing and a curse. For the blessing part of it, we'll continue to support Database Firewall. There's cases where you want that, but we're going to embed firewall to SQL firewall type capability inside of the database in 23C. That is not in beta 1. It's sort of there, but the code isn't really usable. That will be there in beta 2, but look forward to that later this year. Any of you who are dealing with PCI requirements are probably being asked about TLS 1.3. We'll add TLS 1.3 support to 23C. And Rich had mentioned Azure AD OAuth 2 integration. That's actually a 23C feature that was so important, we went ahead and backported it to 19C, but that's why you see it here making 23C complete.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a huge year, and it's not just the database. DataSafe will continue to evolve. We're going to continue to expand user assessment. Pedro Lopez, who many of you have seen as a guest on Office Hours before, has been working on some new capability around monitoring user profiles that is very exciting. And it's an important area that we hadn't been doing before in baselining that we will be doing. We're improving our alerting capabilities with custom alert policies, improved audit policy management, and we continue to optimize data masking. Speaking of data masking, many of those improvements that you've seen in DataSafe are moving into Enterprise Manager sometime later this year, probably mid-year, but towards the middle of the year around there. You'll see an improved user interface that starts to incorporate some of the capabilities that you've grown to love in DataSafe, a lot easier to use. Key Vault, the Key Vault team is extraordinarily aggressive. These guys meet weekly with, okay, here's where we are in our development team. What can we do next? And they're always out there looking for new use cases. There are a ton. Key management is kind of boring. I mean, it's important, but you're managing a key. Really, the only thing that you do there is just increasing the different things you support. So that work continues. But secrets management, which we started doing last year, there are so many things you can do around secrets management. So expect to see continued improvements in secrets management for Key Vault throughout this year. Audit Vault and Database Firewall, similar to data masking and subsetting. We're going to be moving some of the capability that's in DataSafe, which not everyone wants to use a cloud service, right? Some people just don't want to do that. They prefer to use an on-premises product. So some of that capability, not data masking, but around assessment and baselining and tracking configuration, you're going to see some of those capabilities moving into Audit Vault and Database Firewall. Same thing with the improvements that you've seen us make over the last year or so with policy management and reporting. You're going to see some of those enhancements going into Audit Vault and Database Firewall. It's just really going to be an exciting year.
Yeah.
One of the questions that came in on chat was around when are we going to release 20.9, the next release of Audit Vault? I can't tell you the exact date, but it is coming fairly soon. Same thing with Key Vault, coming fairly soon. Within the next month or so, you'll probably see something starting to come out and starting to become available. So stay tuned for that. And of course, we'll talk about these all during office hours, but it is going to be a huge year for database security 2023. Rich, back to you.
Awesome. Well, everything we talked about today is on that GitHub repository that I've talked about and posted like 8 times in the chat here. Take a look at that. You can go back. I started doing this in July or so. So if you're watching a presentation about middle of next year, I started doing this. So you can go back and see all those notes that are associated with that presentation as well. So, or if you don't want to watch the presentation, you can just go to that GitHub page, look at the notes and see, oh yeah, here's a link that I was looking for. This would be interesting. All right, next office hours are going to be on Wednesday, February 8th. We're not really sure what we're going to talk about yet. We're going to have to figure that out rather soon, though, because January came quick and February is going to come quick as well. But maybe the data masking presentation that I want to do. But either way, this session will be available on the Ask Tom platform. You can get there from bit.ly/asktomdbsec.